CTV News with Carlisle Fizette.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. We begin tonight with serious allegations against St. Joseph's Healthcare. A report published by the Investigative Journalism Bureau in partnership with Post Media alleges puppies are being tested and killed for human heart research. Rita Ismail has more, and a warning: some viewers may find the content in this story disturbing.
According to an article published in the National Post today by the Investigative Journalism Bureau, researchers inside St. Joseph's Lawson Research Institute studying heart attack recovery in humans are using dogs as stand-ins. Robert Cribb, founder of Investigative Journalism Bureau, spoke to two staffers who allege animal cruelty during the research.
They call it the secret sixth floor, and it's there that they undergo these procedures, which are effectively inducing heart attacks in the dogs to study heart failure and recovery. And they can go on for as long as 3 hours, according to the internal study protocol documents that we looked at.
The program is not something new. Sources tell CTV News it has been ongoing for years, citing a research paper from 2019 showing medical images of canine hearts being used in studies. In a statement to CTV News, St. Joseph's Hospital does not deny research involving canines is being conducted. However, it says the story contains several inaccuracies of fact. It goes on to explain the purpose of the research is to learn more about how to accurately image post-heart attack injury and healing that we cannot yet decipher using other models. The hospital says respect, excellence, and compassion are foundational to their ethical care and treatment of animals in research. However, the whistleblowers allege otherwise. Through
photos and video, they're caged. There appears to be no beds in the cages. There's feces. Post-surgery, they are. There's certainly video and descriptions of high-pitched whining.
Meanwhile, St. Joseph's maintains that they are regulated and guided by rigorous policies and procedures for high-quality animal care by provincial and national bodies. Animal testing is governed by the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness. In a statement to CTV News, Press Secretary Spencer Fair says, as reported, this research facility received federal funding for their research, and we expect the federal government to ensure its funding recipients operate ethically, transparently, and in accordance with Ontario law. Animal activists argue there are alternatives to animal experimentation.
We just know that there are serious questions about whether this research is needed or useful, and that non-animal methods are being explored in cutting-edge science around the world. And certainly Canada is falling behind, and St. Joseph's is falling behind.
CTV News reached out to LHSC to see if similar procedures were being used in research. In a statement, the hospital says at London Health Sciences Centre Research Institute, we conduct some studies with mice, rats, and frogs. Some studies also include pigs. Our studies do not involve dogs or any other animals.
Cardiac arrest and heart failure is, of course, an issue that affects millions of Canadians and is vitally important. The debate is over whether we need to kill dogs to do that.
Animal Justice says their main focus continues to be the rehoming of these animals as they continue to urge hospitals to release them. Rita Ismail, CTV News.
And CTV News has not been able to independently verify some of the claims made in the IJB report. A prominent human rights organization is demanding City Hall change the name of a local street because of ties to Hitler's Nazi regime. With more, here's Sean Irvin.
This street sign has been posted in an industrial area of southeast London for over 2 decades. Max Bros Drive sits near Bros Canada, one of several industries along the roadway. However, Max Bros himself has a dark past, according to the human rights organization Friends of Simon Wiesenthal Center. The FSWC cites Bros' record with the Nazi regime.
This man was happy to have Jewish and other slaves working in his plant to produce armaments for a genocidal war effort.
On its website, the Bros company contends its founder was determined to be a passive follower of the regime and not a Nazi activist. The center vehemently disagrees, calling him a major supporter of German National Socialism. They further contend the City of London should have known better than to have a street named after Max Bros in the first place. The centre says the sign is fundamentally incompatible with Canadian values and a stain on the nation's good name. It's demanding the mayor's office and city officials take action. In a letter sent to the mayor dated July 31st, the FSWC calls for Max Bros Drive to be renamed. The organization acknowledges it had been unaware of the street until recently.
Certainly, we were surprised to find out that there was a street in London named after a Nazi.
CTV News reached out to the mayor's office for comment. We've been told he had just become aware of the letter and is preparing to review it. The center hopes that happens quickly.
This is on the property of a government and of a nation that fought the Nazis at great expense, at great cost, and we find this unacceptable.
In London, Sean Irvin, CTV News.
A new apartment building has been proposed in London's northwest, not only adding housing units to the area, but childcare as well. As Brian Bicknell reports, those are major needs for the neighborhood, but there are questions over road conditions and the added traffic.
This property on Gainsborough Road near Sherwood Forest Mall could soon be the site of the neighborhood's newest apartment. The plan well received so far from some neighbors.
I think it's fantastic. I think the area needs it, especially the businesses in Sherwood Forest Mall. I think it really helped the businesses and help the community as a whole.
It would be nice for this area to have a nice new apartment building, bring in more people. It would help them all.
Developer Highcal Group is proposing an 8-story building with 101 units for the southeast corner of Gainsborough and Limberlost. It would include commercial space for a daycare, replacing what's being described as an underutilized church with a daycare currently on the property. Ward Councillor Corinne Rahman says it's a good fit.
The owner of the lands is also the owner of the daycare. So it's a really interesting proposal from that perspective. We all know that we need more childcare here in London. So this, meets those kinds of needs.
The property would have 76 parking spaces.
Though we really need to look at underground parking, and we really need to work on lights so that traffic flow can work effectively.
With Gainsborough a major commuter route, this intersection can get very busy at times with traffic, particularly during the morning and afternoon rush hours. The rehab on Gainsborough planned for next year does include a pedestrian crossing. What it does not include is road widening.
I don't know if you look historically at every time Gainsborough gets talked about, it gets waffled on and it wins by a vote. We're a bottleneck city, and we're hard to grow out of that.
Rahman says while Gainsborough is not scheduled for widening, people will have opportunities for input in the mobility master plan. In the meantime, city councillors will consider the apartment proposal October 1st. Brian Bicknell, CTV News.
Provincial police are reporting a massive seizure near Simcoe, confiscating more than $50 million worth of illegal cannabis. According to OPP, more than 100,000 plants were seized and 950 pounds of cannabis buds. Police say they also seized several production assets like grow lights, machinery, and other equipment. They say 16 people face more than 30 charges. Canadian border agents say they recently seized millions of dollars worth of suspected cocaine at the Blue Water Bridge. They published these images saying nearly 200 kilograms of narcotics were seized from a commercial truck arriving in Canada last month. They say officers inspected the attached trailer and found 7 bags containing suspected cocaine, charging a 29-year-old man from Caledon. Meanwhile, a jury in Simcoe has acquitted a man accused of stabbing his grandmother to death 2 years ago. The body of 90-year-old Marlene Wilson was found with stab wounds to her chest in Waterford back in February 2023. Police charged her 36-year-old grandson, Jourdain Wilson, with second-degree murder. However, after hearing all the evidence at trial, the jury deliberated for 8 hours and returned with a not guilty verdict. During the trial, the court heard there were 3 other people living with Marlene Wilson at the time of her death. A man from Windsor has been convicted of terrorism. The 22-year-old was charged after he applied to join an organization deemed a terrorist group in Canada. With more on the judge's decision, here's Michelle Molesky.
22-year-old Seth Bertrand had no comment as he raced from Superior Court Thursday. He had just been found guilty of terrorism because he applied online to join the Atomwaffen Division, which is on Canada's list of terrorist entities. Applying to join and offering to enhance their cause is enough to constitute terrorism, the federal prosecutor says.
It's not necessary that the activity actually be carried out or that he knows the specific activity that will ultimately be carried out.
Justice Maria Caracia ruled Bertrand knew AWD is a terrorist group. He offered his skills in the military to them and admitted he shared their views of white supremacy.
This was a legal question as to whether or not it was caught as criminal conduct.
The defense argued there was no written proof that AWD is a terrorist group, or any proof that AWD is the same as the National Socialist Order. They further argued that filling out an online application is not the same thing as taking actions on behalf of the group. The judge disagreed. The accused espoused the ideology that was anti-Semitic, anti-Black, and anti-LGBTQ, Justice Caracia said. He indicates in the application that he filed to join AWD-NSO that he wants to be a part of a group that is doing things.
Obviously, he's disappointed to a degree that he was convicted and that this will continue to hang over his head and that there's the possibility of incarceration. But, there's no shock here. There's no feeling like you weren't heard.
Michelle Molesky, CTV News.
President Donald Trump bragged today about the billions of dollars a month he expects to flow into the U.S. from dozens of countries hit by today's latest round of reciprocal tariffs. There is pushback, though, with several nations now angling to move away from trade with the U.S. Mike LeCouture reports.
Having discussions with the Americans.
Prime Minister Carney wouldn't say when he'll next speak to U.S. President Donald Trump, but Ontario's premier didn't mince words when asked about how Canadians see the American leader.
He's probably the most disliked politician in the world in Canada.
In an interview on CNN, Doug Ford tried to explain to Americans that these tariffs are hurting them.
When you see 37,000 Americans have lost their jobs, that can't pay the rent or can't pay a mortgage, put food on their table, and this is just going to grow even more.
A new report from Yale University shows the current tariffs will hit American consumers.
We're expecting an adjustment of about over $2,000 to, their real household income and sort of purchasing power.
The impact could be felt in back-to-school shopping, as the tariffs will make shoes 40% more expensive, and the price of other clothes will rise by 38% because of import duties. Meantime, the impact on Canada's economy is being measured by the Royal Bank. In June, 92% of Canadian exports crossed into the U.S. duty-free because they are covered under the current trade agreement, leaving 8% subject to punishing tariffs.
That portion of trade is unfortunately facing an average tariff rate of 30%.
Still, the overall impact on the Canadian economy is relatively small at this point, but sectors like steel and aluminum continue to suffer. While campaigning ahead of his by-election in Alberta, Pierre Poilievre criticized Carney's handling of the trade talks.
He's been bending over backwards for the president and so far has gotten nothing in return.
Now, Prime Minister Carney continues to say he will speak to the U.S. president when it makes sense, but there is no clear indication of exactly when that could be. Mike LeCouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Prime Minister Mark Carney met with Métis leaders today discussing their concerns about the federal government's Bill C-5. With more on that, here's Abigail Beeman.
Thank you for coming.
Prime Minister Mark Carney said the government is listening to Métis people now, citing their work creating original trade networks across the land.
Part of a process of creating new trade networks, new forms of commerce in Canada, both with full recognition this time, full recognition of Métis contributions and full Métis access.
Métis leaders positive after the meeting. Summer summits held as a response to friction over the rushed passage of C5, the Building Canada bill. Not as much from Métis as other Indigenous groups, but Métis organizations certainly have questions.
As long as, the Canada is going to consult with us and make sure that our Indigenous rights are protected, we're ready to go.
This was a great start, and we need to have more dialogue like this.
We can't go there if Ontario is in that room.
Meanwhile, the Manitoba Métis Federation refused to attend, saying Wednesday Carney invited what it considers to be illegitimate organizations.
If you want to come and sit down with my cabinet and a government-to-government relationship, we will meet. But if you want to insult us, then we'll see each other in a different political realm in the future.
We've had good engagement directly with the Manitoba Métis, and that will continue.
The Métis Nation of Ontario says Manitoba is putting forward a new and false narrative. Meanwhile, the Métis Nation of British Columbia also refused attendance because it was only invited as an online observer. This was the last of 3 summer summits the Prime Minister held with Indigenous groups, First Nations, Inuit, and now Métis. Carney says the goal is to have both the Major Projects Office and the Indigenous Advisory Council up and running by Labor Day. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Ottawa.
A new report on youth employment has found many young people in southern Ontario have struggled to find meaningful jobs this summer. Beth McDonnell has more on the high unemployment figures and what advocates are trying to do about them.
Maria Martinez is having a much better work experience this summer compared to last summer when she ended up in a position at a fast food restaurant.
It's a revolving door of like, okay, if I don't like you, I can fire you and then we can get someone else.
This year, she's taking part in a Black student leadership program and is employed 35 hours a week at the neighborhood group where she supports youth and takes part in workshops and excursions.
It's so meaningful being able to be placed with BSSLP this summer, as I feel it definitely enriches my ability to connect with various mentors, as well as be able to have an understanding of my potential career paths.
Martinez is among a large group of youth, officials, and Toronto organizations pushing all levels of government to create 10,000 meaningful jobs with the city by next summer. The goal to tackle the crisis of youth summer unemployment and youth unemployment, which youth advocate Stephen Mensah says is connected to youth crime and violence.
Young people made it loud and clear, just this catch-22 of, hey, I need experience to get a job, but I can't get a job without experience, and so I'm left stuck. And we know this reality is even more dire for young people who are Black, Indigenous, equity-deserving, young people living in Toronto community housing.
The call for jobs comes with the release of the Toronto Youth Employment Postcard Report, essentially a survey which asked young people what they need to better succeed.
Hey, I want an opportunity. I need a job to not just help me so I can buy things for myself, but to help my mom pay rent, but to help with caregiving responsibilities and other necessities like transportation and housing. And so young people were very vulnerable and real as to the importance of a job for them.
Beth McDonnell, CTV News.
Later on CTV News, a Canadian crowned a champion on home soil. The 18-year-old tennis star thrilling fans in Montreal. Canada's main stock index closed down today while American markets were mixed. The TSX fell 160 points. In New York, the Dow dropped 224 and the Nasdaq gained 73. Canadian dollar down 0.04 cents. On commodity markets, gold gained more than $20 an ounce and oil lost 47 cents a barrel. The Israeli Prime Minister is calling for his country's military to take total control of Gaza before transferring the territory to Arab forces. With more on that decision and what it could mean for a potential ceasefire, here's Rachel Aiello.
The prospect of Israel taking complete military control of the Gaza Strip, sparking protests outside of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office and across Israel tonight. Those demonstrating echoing United Nations concerns that doing so could be catastrophic for the hostages Hamas is still holding captive in Gaza. The reaction, the result of Netanyahu declaring his intent to expand operations temporarily.
In order to assure our security, remove Hamas there, enable the population to be free of Gaza, and to pass it to civilian governance. That is not Hamas, and not anyone advocating the destruction of Israel.
Pro-Palestinian protesters outside the Israeli embassy in Ottawa today outraged over what Netanyahu's move may mean for civilians in Gaza.
Gaza belongs to their people. Nobody can take Gaza, just their people. No another army, no another country.
We cannot sit back.
It's unsupportable.
And Netanyahu wants to occupy the crime scene.
Israel has come under intensifying international pressure, including from Canada, to reach a ceasefire. Talks between Israel and Hamas broke down last month. Today, the recognized terrorist group said Netanyahu's latest plans represent a blatant reversal of the negotiation process. The Israeli Prime Minister said it's about liberating the people of Gaza. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Good evening. I'm meteorologist Gary Archibald for CTV News. We are still in the heat and humidity. Temperatures a few degrees above seasonal. Combine that with the relative humidity over southern Ontario. That's about 60 to 70%. It does feel warm, a bit sultry, but no significant rain is anticipated over the next 24 to 48, maybe even 72 hours. I'll break down the forecast, see if the air quality continues to improve. It's all coming up next on CTV News.
Welcome back. Meteorologist Gary Archibald with me tonight. And Gary, as we get toward this weekend, looking like a beautiful one with some heat and a little bit of humidity too, though.
You're right about that combination. Good evening once again, Carlisle, folks. We're looking at temperatures that will be a couple of degrees above seasonal. The almanac gives us the statistical frame of reference, if you will. A couple of degrees above seasonal today. Average high 26, average low 15. Well, we got to 28. Some areas within the city limits were actually closer to 29, 30. It felt like about 34 to 36 because the relative humidity, that moisture, the air tends to hold on to in the summer months. Well, it does inhibit our ability to cool down naturally, to perspire, and that's why it feels, we get the sensation of it feeling warmer. There have been a few scattered showers and even thunderstorms, daytime heating suggesting that we could still be into some of that again. Eastern Michigan and into northern central Ontario is where the computer models suggest those showers will lie. Further south towards the Golden Horseshoe, along the 4-1 corridor between Toronto and London, towards Chatham, Kent, Windsor, Essex, there's a chance of pop-up thunderstorms. The ground heats up the air at the surface, which then can rise and condense into those summertime storms, which we know very well. Looks like the setup is more so stateside in Michigan and eastern Michigan, but parts of southern Ontario could get into it. Chatham, Kent, perhaps Sarnia, Goderich, maybe just on the cusp of showers there, but I think Wyerton, Mount Forest, Shelburne, and Tobermory, Owen Sound could be seeing more of the late afternoon, early evening thunderstorms, perhaps more of your garden variety, what we would expect, not severe. Teens, mid-teens to low 20s anticipated for the overnight lows. The temperatures, the lowest that they'll be before dawn tomorrow morning. And speaking of tomorrow morning, it's already warm, feeling warmer. Mostly sunny for the morning through the midday afternoon and towards dusk. 21 at 8 a.m. feels like 27. We'll see a high of 30, feeling like 38. So we are indeed warming up, and we'll see more sunshine for the weekend. 30 and 31, high UV rating for the next 3 days. The clouds start to build and roll in with the potential of showers, although the probability stat's relatively low. Monday through to Thursday next week, we'll see temperatures dropping from 30s, low 30s into the mid-20s. A similar forecast for the Midwest, but I mentioned the thunderstorms in the afternoon. Possibly, I think that probability stat's closer to 20 to 30%. Sunny for the weekend. 30s possible Sunday, and then cooling off with showers intermittently with thunder showers as we head towards Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
Thank you, Gary. A change in protocol for Canada Post delivery workers. Mail carriers will no longer raise the flag on mailboxes indicating a delivery has been made. Katie Griffin has more on the decision and the reaction.
The postman comes, puts the mail inside, closes the door, and brings this up.
For many, that's the way it's been in rural areas for years. Not anymore.
Whether it's to save time or money, I'm not sure, but it's not doing the workers nor the corporation any good.
David Carrier received a letter from Canada Post indicating delivery agents would no longer raise the flag on mailboxes when mail is delivered.
And it seems a little bit odd that given it a time when Canada Post is struggling to survive and wanting large raises and wanting to gain more of the market share, that they're going to offer less service and less convenience to the public when they deliver their mail.
A resident in Somerstown near Cornwall received this handwritten note from a carrier saying they were no longer allowed to raise the flag. So sorry, please check box regularly. In a letter to rural customers, Canada Post said after a review it was determined that the purpose of the signal device was for the customer to indicate to the delivery agent that there was outgoing mail. Canada Post writes in a statement that the flag is not meant to inform customers mail is in the mailbox. It acknowledged some do it as a courtesy, but that it is not a national delivery process. For Carrier, it doesn't make sense.
I've spent my whole life living rurally, and I don't know of very many people who put mail outgoing and use that indicator. But a lot of people here have a half-a-mile laneway, and they look out, they don't see a flag, they don't go out. If they see the flag, they go out. So a lot of these people are older, and it takes some effort to go out and get that mail.
Katie Griffin, CTV News.
Finally tonight, a historic moment on the tennis court in Montreal.
The maiden of Montreal. At just 18 years of age, Victoria Mboko completes a magnificent run to her first tour title.
Victoria Mboko defeated four-time Grand Slam winner Naomi Osaka in the National Bank Open final earlier tonight. The 18-year-old lost the first set, but rallied for a thrilling come-from-behind victory. Mboko started the year outside the top 300 in the women's world rankings, and she'll now climb all the way up to 25.
I want to thank every single one of you who came to support me throughout this whole week. You guys were incredible, and I couldn't be more grateful. Montreal, je vous aime.
And that's it for us. Thanks for watching. For all of us at CTV News London, I'm Carlisle Fazette. Have a good night.